Well, thank you, Joe. You can tell that from that introduction that Knox people know how to exaggerate, but they also know how to stick together. Joe doesn't know this, but I actually was a resident for my first many years of life in his ward. Then we moved 3 miles west to the 39th ward, but thanks for all the great work you're doing for our city, Joe.
Include that in your biography. That's important.
The 49th ward, we stick together. I want to thank the Democratic municipal officials for having me here today, and most importantly, for the really great work that you're doing for our people all across the country. When I was listening to Ralph talk about the 1968 convention, I think about our friends on Capitol Hill on the Republican side of the aisle. It makes me realize that Nixon would probably be a liberal today. So we welcome you, Ralph, into the fold. And as I say, when I think of the work you do, Washington, the capital of dysfunction, feels like a world removed from the real issues that you're dealing with and that the American people are dealing with every day. You know, when I turn on the TV, the pundits sit around, they're talking about the president's jump shot or John Boehner's facial expressions during the State of the Union, or whether Gene Sperling's being mean to Bob Woodward, or the First Lady's bangs. I think you would agree with me, municipal officials don't have the luxury of self-absorption that we have here in Washington. Your residents' problems are right on your doorsteps. That's one of the reasons that so many local governments are the proving grounds for innovative new approaches to governance and public services. And you heard the mayor say it, put it out there on the line about what you're trying to do every day. And that's one of the reasons I think that we have such a strong tradition in this country to looking to local governments to formulate local solutions to local problems and local challenges, and to deal with the real issues facing our people and our workers. I think you'll all agree that when a municipal government sees a problem in the community, they should be able to debate the issue, put it to a vote, especially if the state government doesn't seem likely to help out. And we'd be pretty confident the federal government's not going to be likely to help out, at least with the Republicans in control of the House these days. These bills have been narrowly focused so far, but passage of the legislation could result in the preemption of a wide range of local ordinances through further legislative action or through the courts. These include measures to protect domestic violence victims, laws prohibiting wage theft, efforts to protect consumers from fraud, and ordinance mandating a higher minimum wage. Many of these preemption bills are aimed at undermining local local measures requiring that employers provide paid sick leave to their workers. I want to discuss a little bit about why paid sick leave is so important in a minute or two, but and why conservative efforts to undermine local leave ordinances are particularly troubling. But first I want to emphasize that these preemption efforts are more than just isolated power grabs by a few state politicians in a few state capitals. As I said, they may be coming to you. This legislation is being written and promoted through a coordinated campaign by a group called the American Legislative Exchange Council. Most of you know ALEC, an ultra-conservative corporate finance organization that's pushed model legislation, particularly on voter suppression in the last election cycle, but on everything from union busting to wage suppression. And now they're coming after the tradition of local control. What's that mean in practice? In 2008, Milwaukee, Wisconsin became the third city in the United States to require paid sick leave for city workers. Milwaukee's paid sick leave ordinance wasn't the result of an overly activist city government or court order. Instead, the policy was put in place by a citywide referendum that was overwhelmingly approved by the voters of Milwaukee, with 69% of the vote supporting the law. 3 years later, after Wisconsin courts upheld the paid sick days law, the state legislature passed a bill preempting the rights of municipalities to decide for themselves whether they want to mandate paid sick leave. Republican Governor Scott Walker signed the bill into law, overturning Milwaukee's publicly supported paid sick leave ordinance and preventing any other municipality from following Milwaukee's example. A similar effort is underway today in Washington State, where a handful of state senators, I would note none of them from Seattle, are sponsoring legislation to overturn Seattle's paid sick leave law. Seattle passed that law by an 8-to-1 vote of the city council. Again, polling indicates that 69% of the city residents support the law. Some state legislatures are so eager to override the rights of municipalities that they're introducing and passing bills preempting local laws before those laws have ever even been introduced in the municipalities, much less finalized. Louisiana prevented municipalities from enacting paid sick leave last year. Legislatures in Florida, Michigan, Mississippi have all introduced paid sick days preemption bills, and none of these states has a single municipality enacted a paid sick day law. If these preemption bills are enacted at the state level, local leaders will never even have a chance to think about improving the lives of the residents with laws to improve workers' health, safety, and financial stability. Republicans like to say they're the party of small government. They like to say that we'd all be better off if more decisions were left to the states and municipalities, devolve everything back to the local level. They like to say that local leaders, not Washington bureaucrats, know what's best for American communities. Well, I think we know the truth. Conservatives still masquerade as the party of small government, but they become the handmaidens of large money corporate interests. And I say that as a business-friendly Bill Clinton, New Democrat. But look at what's going on. One of the bills designed to gut Seattle's sick leave law would prohibit any such law from applying to businesses headquartered outside the municipality that enacted it. That means that mom and pop businesses in the city of Seattle would be subject to the paid sick leave law, but larger companies would easily skirt the requirements. Supporters of the law in Seattle have dubbed that the Burger King exception. Sure, most of the bills right now are narrowly focused on paid sick leave, in some cases on local ordinances to raise minimum wages. But once a law of this kind is passed, it becomes easier to prevent any progressive ordinance passed through ballot measure or city council. Maybe your municipality has enacted stronger domestic violence protections than the rest of the state. Maybe your city has a large population of senior citizens or disabled people, and you passed a law increasing consumer protections to prevent scams. Any local ordinance that your community agrees on is in danger if conservative lawmakers in your state capital don't like it. That is not how our democracy is supposed to work. ALEC is, as I said, famous for pushing voter suppression laws in states around the country. It's not enough for them to try to control who gets to vote. Now they want to control what we can vote for in our own local communities. That's, I think, why it's up to each of you to push back against these attempts to wrest democratic power from your communities. And maybe you should start by thinking about how paid sick leave could work for your own municipality. The United States is the only developed nation that doesn't guarantee paid sick days or paid medical leave. Close to 40% of private sector workers and a staggering 90% of food service workers do not have access to paid sick leave. And nearly 1/4 of adults say they've been threatened with termination or even been fired for taking time off when they're sick, when they have to take care of a sick kid or a family member. Now think about the last time you were feeling ill. You know, I know that I tell my employees to stay home if they're sick, because as soon as one person comes to the office with a flu or a stomach bug, it's pretty easy for an unwashed hand on a doorknob or an uncovered sneeze in a conference room to take down most of the employees. Projects are delayed, meetings are canceled. The more people get sick, the bigger the problem becomes. And if an employee's pay is contingent entirely on reporting for work each day, they're much more likely to come to work when they're sick. That's why so many white-collar businesses recognize that it's in the business's interest to allow their employees to stay home when they're sick and to pay them the normal salary for the day. But what happens when the person with the flu is a food service worker in a sandwich shop, or a young person fixing your iPhone at the Apple store, or a home health care aide who takes care of your ailing parent? If they stay home, they probably won't get paid, and they may even get fired if they have to take too many days off. That means that workers earning low hourly wages often go to work when they shouldn't, when they're sick. Last month, the Bureau of Labor Statistics tells us that because of the flu season, nearly 3 million people called out of work because of illness, more than any month since February of 2008 because of the particularly strong flu season. What the BLS can't calculate is how many employees went to work when they shouldn't have, out of concern over losing their wages or really losing their job, and how many of their coworkers or customers got sick as a result. The push for earned sick time policies to protect public health, improve working conditions, and boost the economic recovery is gaining momentum across the country. Connecticut passed the first statewide law under the leadership of Governor Dan Malloy after he campaigned for it. Paid sick leave bills have been introduced in Maryland, in Massachusetts, in Vermont, and Washington legislature. City councils in Philadelphia, Portland, Oregon, and New York City all have votes or hearings scheduled this month. In all those cities, advocates of paid sick leave have the votes they need to win. That affirms what public opinion, I think, public opinion research has long showed. Americans overwhelmingly support this movement. They support paid sick leave and they want action. A bipartisan election night poll found that 86% of voters nationwide said it was important for Congress and the president to consider new laws like paid sick days and paid family and medical leave insurance to help keep working families financially secure. That same poll found 73% of Republicans, 87% of independents, and 96% of Democrats said it was important for Congress and the president to focus on family-friendly policies. It's really particularly an important, I want to make a political point, particularly important and strong issue, what some people refer to as the Obama coalition, or what we talk about as the rising American electorate, unmarried women, Latinos, African Americans, young people. They're the people most affected, they're the people most struggling, they're the people most in need of government support to create family-friendly, worker-friendly policies. Of course, the fact that family-friendly and improving the lives of working people seems so far away from the agenda of the House Republicans, who view the sequester as a triumph, who today are considering a bill to cut $770 billion out of Medicaid, may have something to do with the fact that Congress has a 12% approval rating right now. The American people are losing faith in the ability of Washington to come together and solve problems, but they have considerably more confidence in their local leaders, people in this room. But paid sick leave offers one, I think, of the best chances to genuinely help working families today to improve their economic security, even if wages have stalled and stagnated and gone down, particularly in the last decade. I think that if we do that, if we defeat the lobbyists who have worked so hard to beat back family reforms for decades, we can stand proud with the people that we represent. Opponents of paid sick leave always retreat to one argument. It'll cost too much, harm business, kill jobs, hurt the economy. Economists from the mainstream out don't believe that. And we don't have to rely just on abstract economists' arguments alone to prove that paid sick leaves don't devastate businesses. We can look at the experience in San Francisco and Connecticut and this city in Washington, D.C. and see real-world evidence. Since San Francisco adopted the paid sick leave ordinance in 2006, job growth in the city has been higher than the surrounding communities, including in industries like retail and food services. 85% of employers report that they didn't experience any loss of profit. 2/3 of businesses in San Francisco support the law. In Connecticut, data from the Department of Labor show employment growth in both leisure and hospitality and education and health service sectors since their paid sick leave law went into effect has gone up. So we've seen strong growth in those sectors. And those, of course, are the sectors without access to paid sick leave before the law. The truth is, sick employees cost businesses time and money. Workers with access to paid sick leave are nearly 1/3 less likely to be injured on the job, which reduces costs to employers. Workers without paid sick leave are 1.5 times more likely to go to work sick, putting their colleagues and customers at risk. They also go to the emergency room a lot more. If we had a national paid sick leave policy, we'd eliminate 1.3 million visits to the emergency room and save $1.1 billion from Medicaid. Last year, corporate profits hit record highs. We have an economy that's disconnected from the lives of working people now. People at the top doing very well, even as wages fell to their lowest ever share of GDP, wages for working people. As worker productivity has surged, really coming out of the financial crisis and the recession, incomes and benefits have declined. But corporations, I think, are still lobbying against benefits like earned sick leave so ferociously that you'd think they were barely scraping by these days. Darden Restaurants, the parent company of Olive Garden and Red Lobster, has spent millions of dollars to keep the tip minimum wage at $2.13 for the last 20 years. Think about that. But public opinion, economic evidence, and I think lawmaking trends across the country have all aligned to show that we can improve the lives of working people in our communities. They don't bankrupt businesses. They strengthen the overall economy. They lead to stronger growth overall. They make the country more competitive. But our friends at ALEC don't agree. They're pouring resources into promoting that legislation to undermine municipal earned sick day laws in states around the country, and that's why we need you to stand up for a fair economy, for a decent economy, for a competitive economy, one that's going to grow stronger, that's going to raise wages, and that is going to produce the results that I think that all of us wish for our cities, wish for our communities, and wish for the people who are living lives that in which they sometimes struggle, but they're always, I think, they're working for their families. We need to be with them and to push back these right-wing efforts and to enact progressive legislation. So I again thank you for the work you do every day in taking care of your citizens, and I want you to know that we're with you here in Washington to try to help do what we can to push this movement from the right back and to try to move progressive legislation forward. Thank you very much.